Here's why your insertional Achilles tendonitis is not getting better and why you're still not running. As a running physical therapist and coach, I've worked with hundreds of runners who are struggling with pain, swelling, or stiffness in their Achilles tendon to get back to pain free running. And there are some common reasons why your Achilles injury wouldn't be improving with the methods that you've tried thus far, whether it was rest, ice, a walking boot, or taking time off of running approach, or you've been doing Achilles specific strengthening exercises and it is still not getting better. One of the most common reasons why your Achilles tendon pain is lingering, like an annoying mosquito on a warm summer night or a pebble in your running shoe that just can't go in the right spot and is like annoying your foot, it's because you have a unique form of Achilles tendon pain that is occurring at the insertional site versus the more common type that is in the mid portion of the tendon. And today, you are going to find out how you know if you have insertional Achilles tendonitis. Then I'm going to share with you 6 reasons why you're not getting better with insertional tendinopathy by providing you with the best insertional Achilles tendonitis treatment. Avoiding these 6 mistakes in recovery will allow you to fix your insertional Achilles tendonitis for good. And the best part is you won't have to stop running in order to properly heal this condition. So you can actually continue getting in your mental clearing miles and put your Achilles tendon pain in the rear view mirror, getting back to doing the thing you love most, which is running on your terms. And if you stick around long enough for this training, I'm going to share with you the one key feature to look for in a running shoe if you have insertional Achilles tendinopathy. So if you are feeling pain and stiffness along your Achilles tendon in the morning that worsens with running hills, running faster paces, or going downstairs, and you've tried icing, resting, stop running, taking anti-inflammatory medication, but you're frustrated that your pain keeps coming back whenever you try to run faster or build back those long runs again, this is for you. First, I want to share a story of a real runner like you who had this condition and is proof that you don't have to stop running in order to heal by sharing Tiffany's story. It will help you identify if you have insertional Achilles tendinopathy as well. So Tiffany is a 46-year-old runner. She's actually a physical therapist herself, but doesn't specialize in fixing Achilles tendonitis. She's an inpatient PT. And she really wanted to train for her first half marathon, but kept getting injured. She loved running 5K and 10K distances in her teens and 20s, but had not run for over 20 years. She was a busy working mom of 2. Can you guys relate at all? And at age 45, she was excited to return to running with her ultimate goal of running her first half marathon. She tried gradually increasing the miles on her own, but repeatedly struggled with various aches and pains and a bout of runner's knee. 2 weeks before I met Tiffany, she actually suffered her most significant injury during an 8-mile run that had some hills in it. And she admits she overdid it a bit with speed that day. She's probably feeling good, right? Hitting that runner's high. Like, can't blame her, right? We've all been there before where everything's clicking. You're just feeling great outside. And she's probably running a little faster than she should have been. And her pain was so severe. It was like an 8 out of 10 pain. And it was right at the insertional site on the back of the heel bone. So kind of like right here. And she had to actually, it was so bad that she actually had to cancel, unfortunately, the 10-mile race that she was signed up for. And it got to the point that she was unable to walk without limping. And Tiffany listened to an episode that I talked about Achilles pain on the Healthy Runner podcast and really wanted to get back her mental clearing miles, but was nervous about how her body would respond to my approach of healing Achilles tendonitis without having to stop running, given the level of pain that she was in and how badly she wanted to run. So over the course of 4 months working with Tiffany within my Spark Back coaching program, her symptoms gradually improved, as did her running. And a couple of months ago, Tiffany not only was able to complete her first half marathon feeling strong, happy, and Achilles pain free, but she finished in a time that far exceeded her expectations. And I am personally looking forward to seeing what Tiffany accomplishes this next year with more running fun adventures out in Colorado. And I share this with you to provide you hope that even though you may have severe pain like Tiffany did, or you've been getting the runaround for months from different healthcare providers, and your Achilles pain is still not getting better, this injury will get better with the right strategies and the 6 insertional Achilles tendinopathy treatment tips I'm excited to share with you today. So, if this is our first introduction, first off, welcome. I'm Dr. Duane Scotti. I'm a running physical therapist, coach, educator, founder of Spark Healthy Runner, creator of the Healthy Runner podcast. And my mission is to preserve the health and longevity of runners everywhere by allowing them to get stronger, run faster, so you can enjoy injury-free lifelong running. And how do you know if you have insertional Achilles tendonitis? So insertional Achilles tendonitis is an overuse injury. So I got my model here, right? So here is the Achilles tendon right here. It connects to your calf muscles. You have the tendon that allows the tendon to connect to bone, and the bone is your heel bone. So you're calcaneus. And this is an overuse injury to the tendon, and it's really a function of compression of the tendon as it inserts into this bone here. So the green mark is where the site of insertional Achilles tendonitis is, as opposed to this blue mark that is more the mid portion of the tendon. So it's a couple inches up from where it inserts into your heel bone. This one is more common. And if you've been, following quote unquote, traditional strategies to heal Achilles tendonitis, specifically strengthening, and you're not responding, if your pain is here, that's why you haven't responded, because the treatment for this pain is much, much different. And the problem is that this tendon is getting compressed against the heel bone. So as it attaches there, it gets either compressed against the back of the heel bone, or your running shoe is actually compressing the tendon. The back of the running shoe is compressing into the tendon. So there's not only an overload of the tendon, but usually an issue of compression of the tendon. And the symptoms that you might be feeling is like pain and swelling in the back of your heel bone. And it might happen gradually over time with running, or after a particular long or faster run, especially one that involves a lot of hills. And pain gets worse during running or after running, especially with, as I mentioned, those kind of hill work, or jumping type activities. So if you are doing any plyometric exercises, or you're doing like a boot camp class and you're doing a lot of jumps, or you jump rope, those are activities that are going to usually increase your pain. It usually hurts more when you stretch your calf muscles or your Achilles tendon. And you might have thought, hey, I hurt my Achilles, I should probably stretch it. And, for some injuries, stretching may be helpful, but a lot of tendon injuries, it usually isn't. And especially this one, if you have the insertional pain, this could make it worse. And the other thing is that if you poke right on the back of the heel where that tendon connects, it will usually hurt to touch. Your heel area might also be swollen. So you might have a pocket of swelling, and there's a little bursa sac back here that's called the retrocalcaneal bursitis, where you might see like this pocket of swelling in the back of your heel, or you might even see a little bit more pronounced swelling in the back of your heel. And you might see more swelling after wearing certain types of shoes. Some other symptoms that you might be feeling with insertional Achilles tendonitis is you could have some pain and stiffness in the morning or after sitting for long periods of time. You might feel sharp pain that starts really during the day after a lot of physical activity, or you're on your feet. You might notice that swelling doesn't go away, and it usually gets worse as the day goes on. And you might get pain with wearing specific heeled shoes that are harder in the back. So like a work boot or a dress shoe, whether it's a men's Oxford dress shoe or a female casual dress shoe, or pumps, right? Like that has a hard back that could compress the tendon against the bone. Or there are some running shoes that have more of a harder, firm back to them that might also add to this compression. And then you notice that you feel better when you're walking barefoot, or you're wearing shoes that don't have a back to them, like a slide or a flip flop. And what winds up happening is the shoe is actually pressing on the Achilles tendon and irritating it, like if you were to press on a bruise. Obviously, if you press on a bruise, that's going to hurt. The shoe presses on the tendon that's already irritated, so it's going to hurt. And then you may see some thickening of the tendon, and you could see almost like a little combo platter, I like to call it, where you have the insertional irritation, inflammation, but you might have had some Achilles pain maybe a couple months ago, a couple years ago, and you might have thickening in this part of the tendon where it is blue. So you might have like a little nodule there in kind of that classic area of having Achilles tendinopathy. And the other thing is that you'll have some difficulty flexing the foot and the ankle. So what happens is when you bring your shin bone over the ankle, like when we run, or if you were to bring your toe upward, we call this dorsiflexion, that would increase the pain that you get right in the back of the heel. So these are some common symptoms to tell if you have insertional Achilles tendinopathy, tendinitis. If you notice, I've been using these terms interchangeably. The one that you're most familiar with is the tendinitis. And if you have inflammation in the back of the heel bone, this could be considered a tendinitis. It's inflammation. However, if you've had this for weeks, you've had this for months, then we pretty much use the terminology now like tendinopathy. So you'll hear me use those terms interchangeably. Technically, it just means like pathology of the tendon. So that's usually the nomenclature that medical professionals will use nowadays, but you'll hear me use them interchangeably just because you probably know this as a tendinitis. So though that's how you know if you actually have this condition. The other thing that a lot of you, that it will be common, is to have a bone spur in the back of your heel. So there'll be like a bump, and we call this like a Haglund's deformity. And a lot of times that bump might also be painful. And sometimes you might have where the tendon inserts into that bump, that some of the fibers of the tendon constantly get irritated. So, one thing that I want you to really kind of be aware of is that the bump does not need to come off. So a lot of times a physician might take an x-ray and be like, ooh, there's this big, huge, bony growth on the back of your heel. We call this a Haglund's deformity. We got to like remove that. Many of you have had this bump way before you had Achilles pain. So we know that the bony growth doesn't correlate, or this bone spur doesn't correlate with your symptoms. Just like a bone spur on the bottom of your heel that most of us have doesn't necessarily correlate with plantar fasciitis. So you probably got a bone spur on the bottom of your heel, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because you're not having symptoms there. So don't be scared if you get an x-ray and you find that there is this bone growth or this bone spur in the back of your heel. Surgery for insertional Achilles tendinopathy is very, very invasive, and it is a hefty surgery. It involves cutting bone. It involves cutting tendon, sewing tendon back together. This is a very long recovery process. And it usually requires 6 to 9 months recovery period before you even try to start to return to run. So I've seen many runners who have had this surgery way before I do what I do now today as a running PT and coach. And this is something that if you are told that you do need surgery, this is a last resort. So you want to exhaust all of your conservative options and make sure that you see the appropriate professional who has helped many people who have insertional Achilles tendinopathy. So unfortunately, there are some that I've even worked with that have gone on to get the surgery. But I just say that because this is not a first line of defense. And some of you might have had this pain, and then you're like, I got to go to the expert. I got to go to the orthopedic, specialist surgeon because he is the expert, right? Or she is the expert. However, there are some orthopedic physician or surgeons that see patients who have insertional Achilles tendinopathy and they're like, okay, let's try physical therapy first. Go to physical therapy. And if that doesn't help after 6 weeks, they're quick to go right to surgery. Now, you might have not gotten the best treatment at that physical therapist office if they're not used to working with runners. So I just want to caution you that if you have this condition, does not usually require surgery. Okay, the majority of people who have this condition will get better without getting surgery. So you want to exhaust all of those options as opposed to jumping right into surgery because it is a long recovery process. And there are some that don't even get back to running. So I don't want that to be you. And I want to make sure, and that's why I'm sharing these strategies with you today, so you can implement these and you don't need a very invasive surgery that involves cutting bone and sewing tendons back together. All right. So that's insertional Achilles tendinopathy. Hopefully that made sense for you. And hopefully you're watching this because that is what you have. If you have higher up Achilles tendon pain, I do have a training on how to treat that because it will be different than what I'm going to talk about right now. So the 6 reasons that you're not getting better with insertional Achilles tendonitis. Number 1, trying quick fixes or misguided treatment. So injections that you think will fix the problem, or being attracted to misguided treatments, focusing too much on hands-on treatment like massage or dry needling, as opposed to a sensible, active approach that I've outlined in my ultimate guide to start running healthy without Achilles tendonitis. And you can get that guide that I'll drop in the description to this video, or you can head to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/Achilles. And in this kind of conveniently compiled download PDF, you're going to get my best video content for overcoming Achilles tendonitis as a runner. You're going to learn what are the causes of Achilles tendonitis, how to treat Achilles tendonitis immediately. Can you strengthen with specific exercise if you still have Achilles pain? Why is exercise the best treatment for Achilles tendonitis? And how to treat chronic Achilles tendonitis with the exact exercises that you need to perform depending upon which stage of healing that you are in. And then how do you prevent Achilles tendonitis from coming back as a runner? These have been the true, tried, tested strategies that have kept all the runners I work with on a one-on-one basis running during their recovery and then finally saying, peace out to Achilles tendonitis for good. So you don't have to rely on quick fixes or misguided treatments. So you can grab your free download ebook by clicking the link that I have for you in the description to this. But it is very common that the passive treatments, we're over relying on them. And those are really meant to open up a window in a short-term relationship to decrease some pain levels as opposed to being the long-term fix. So I've done many manual therapy treatments in my physical therapy career. I do dry needling, nothing against those options, but they're one piece of the puzzle to help decrease pain a little bit in order to do the long-term fixes. Okay. So that's kind of reason number 1 is that you're relying more on the quick fixes or the misguided treatments. Number 2, you're performing Achilles strengthening exercises off the edge of a step. So with insertional Achilles tendon pain, it is critical to avoid Achilles tendonitis exercises such as eccentric heel drops off of a step, where you drop the heel lower than the level of your toes and it loads the tendon into this dorsiflexed position as you're hanging off the edge of a step. Unfortunately, this also compresses the tendon. So it compresses right at that insertional point that I showed you before, which could further irritate an already aggravated tendon, which would slow down your recovery process and postpone your return to running. And they've actually done a lot of research on this in comparing, and those that don't respond to a progressive tendon loading protocol of exercises are usually those who have insertional Achilles tendinopathy. And that's how they came up with the guidelines, the researchers, to not drop the heel below. And since I've implemented that in the last decade, really, since all that research came out, I've been able to get the folks I work with who have an insertional Achilles tendon pain-free and building up the strength in the tendon to allow it to heal. So that is really second reason that you're not getting better with insertional Achilles tendonitis, is that you're actually doing calf raises below the level of a step. So make sure you're not doing that. You're going to do them right to the level of the floor only. The third reason is not increasing the intensity of exercises enough. So the effort level with loading exercises needs to be challenging. So you should feel burning in your calf muscle when you are doing your Achilles specific exercises. This should feel like an effort level of a 6 to an 8 out of 10 while you're performing the exercises. So if you've been to PT before and you're only, sitting on a table doing calf strengthening exercises with a TheraBand that you're holding, most likely you're not adding enough resistance or load to the tissue to actually allow it to heal. Also, if you are only doing double leg calf raises, coming up and down, or you're doing single leg calf raises and you can do like 20 or 30 of them and you're banging them out like it's nothing, then you need to increase the intensity by increasing the weight. So if you're like flying through your calf raises and you're like, this is pretty easy, no biggie. Hey, I'm doing this every single day. I'm doing 30 calf raises twice a day, every single day for weeks now. Why is my Achilles pain not going away? Because you're not increasing the intensity enough of the exercise. How to fix Achilles tendonitis, you can do this in 5 minutes, and it depends upon which type of runner you are. In the previous training that I mentioned, I shared with you 3 different scenarios of Achilles tendon pain that you can determine which stage you're in and which specific tendon loading exercise is right for you within the Achilles download that I mentioned earlier. So I kind of outline exactly which exercise would be best for you. The fourth reason that your Achilles pain is not getting better is not addressing the underlying ankle mobility problem. So if you have stiff ankles, so I'm talking to you high arched folks, you, as we call them, chandelier shakers. If you walk around barefoot in your house and you have hardwood floors, like the whole family can hear you coming from the other side of the house, right? You're not like sneaking up on anyone. You're no ninja. No one's surprised when they see you walk into the room. Okay. As opposed to someone who's got like flat pancake feet, like you can like sneak up on people, they don't even like hear you coming. I'm talking about you, the chandelier shaker, where like everything is shaking, like when you walk to the other side of the house. If you have a high arch, most likely because of your foot type, you're going to have really stiff ankles as well. And the problem is maybe you've never focused on this before, or you've been a runner for many, many years, and you're constantly contracting the calf muscles on the back of your lower leg. And eventually your ankle mobility can get very stiff where you don't have a lot of movement of the shin bone over the foot, which we do need at least at minimum 10 degrees of what we call this ankle dorsiflexion, but most likely you're going to need 15 or 20 degrees, especially if you're going to run on an incline. So if you're running any hills, unless you're like running in Florida only where it's like all flat, if you have to run any hills, it's going to require more ankle mobility. And if you're limited ankle mobility, you're going to reach your limit and you're going to cause more compression of that tendon. So this is something that if you're not addressing your ankle mobility could be an issue, that why you're not getting better. And the good thing is, in order to improve your ankle mobility, there are some manual therapy techniques. If you're seeing a good manual based running PT that can manipulate your ankle joint, there's some mobilizations and mobilization movement. But honestly, there's a very simple exercise that you can do on your own. And most PTs will give this to you as like your home exercise program that you can do with a band. So you actually put a really sturdy band, so like one of those mobility bands or assisted pull-up bands, and you wrap it in the front of your ankle bone. And what it does is it actually helps with the sliding of this bone right here, your talus, within the ankle joint. So it allows it to slide backward as you come forward. So we call it a mobilization with movement. And this is a self mobility technique. So you can do it on your own. So I got a great video of that I'll link, and it's also in the download, that you can do this self ankle mobility at home. The one caveat, the one thing I'll caution you is that you want to make sure this is pain free. Because I found with this insertional Achilles tendinopathy, if it's not pain-free and you're causing compression, then this can actually further irritate the tendon. So this can be a tricky thing because we want to get to the root cause and like improve your ankle mobility overall, but we don't want to increase the compressive load to the tendon, especially where you are in your healing journey. So I want to make sure I'm clear here is that if you are doing that exercise that I'm talking about, you want to make sure you're staying behind pain. You're not going into pain. So you might need to start with partial range of motion where you're not going all the way to the end range of your limit where you feel like your ankle's stuck. It doesn't move anymore, right? And as your pain levels go down, as you start to build up the resilience in the tendon's actually healing, then you can go further into the range of motion and then get to your end limits of motion and start to improve your ankle mobility. So this is also different than stretching your calf muscles, because when we are stretching our calf muscles, most of us are doing the stretch with your knee straight, which is only stretching actually the gastrocnemius muscle and the tendon structure, which isn't going to improve your ankle mobility at all. And if you are bending your knee to get solely a stretch, you will work on improving your mobility, but the only problem is the way you're positioned, you are putting more compressive load, how you stretch kind of the calf with a bent knee version, and you're not using the band. The band helps facilitate the sliding and gliding of that joint. So it can slide and then you roll over. So I would highly recommend you do the self mobility and you stop doing any calf stretching if you have this insertional Achilles tendon pain. And if you're doing the ankle mobility, make sure, remember, it's got to be pain free. Okay. So that's the fourth reason, is that someone's not working on their ankle mobility. The fifth reason that your Achilles pain is not going away if you have insertional Achilles tendonitis is you didn't modify your activity level enough. So I see a lot of runners who are, maybe you're used to going for a 5-6 mile run during the week, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do a 3-mile run. And that might not be enough. Okay. You might need to actually do a structured run walk strategy, meaning you're going to actually run for a minute or 2 minutes, and then you're going to walk for a minute or 30 seconds. And you're going to do that in a progressive fashion. So you don't actually have to stop running for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you try to run again, and then you're like, oh man, my pain just came back. Oh, I guess I can't run again. And you do the same start stop cycle, right? Like if you've done this and if you've had this, pain for weeks and months, I know you've tried this already, and that doesn't work. But what does work is actually running, but doing a structured run walk strategy. It allows you to add a little bit of load to the tendon where it tolerates it without getting flared up. And then the walking actually allows it to rest and recover. And then doing that in a structured manner where you're increasing the amount of time that you're running, decreasing the amount of time you're walking, you're increasing your time throughout the week, you're maintaining a long run where you're doing the most intervals on your long run during the weekend. That has been super helpful for the runners I work with this condition. And it allows you to modify your activity level, which is key to healing tendon injuries, and specifically insertional Achilles tendinopathy. And my Spark Healthy Runner signature return to run program will provide you with the structure of exactly how much, how often, and the proper run walk progressions to allow your body to safely adapt to the demands of running without any setbacks. And I put this in a bonus printed out calendar telling you exactly what to do each day of the week for the first 6 weeks, guys. So I've given this to you for free. You can get that download at learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/return to run. That's been super helpful in order to modify your activity level so you can actually run without having to stop running. So you can actually maintain a little mental, clearing miles outside, get outside, do the thing that you love, still feel like an athlete. And then the sixth reason that your Achilles tendon pain is not getting better with what you're trying now is you haven't added in plyometric exercises or tried running to progress to the next level. So we know that in order for tendons to heal, we need to go beyond strengthening exercises only. And we need to start to load the tendon for sport specific work, which our sport is running, right? So we need to actually run in order to progressively load that tendon, like I mentioned in the earlier point. So running is simply a series of hops from one foot to the other. And we need plyometric training or jump training in order to actually train the tendon to tolerate the demands of running from one foot to the other. So we need to train plyometrically and learn how to do jump training for runners. And then we need to actually run, which was the other point, right? That we don't want to stop running. And that's why all the runners I work with don't need to actually stop running with this condition. So that is really the sixth reason why you're not getting better with insertional Achilles tendinopathy. So to summarize the 6 reasons here, guys, that number 1, you're trying quick fixes or misguided treatments. Number 2, you're performing Achilles strengthening exercises off the edge of the step. We need to stop doing that off the edge of the step. Number 3, you're not increasing the intensity of exercise enough. So we need to progressively load as long as you're within the pain monitoring model that I mentioned in my previous training. Number 4, we're not addressing the underlying ankle mobility problem. Number 5, you didn't modify your activity level enough, so you didn't kind of cut back enough. So you didn't try a run walk strategy. And then number 6 is you're not adding in plyometric exercises or you're just not running at all. So now I want to know which of these 6 are the reasons you haven't gotten better yet. Like, this is a no judgment zone. If you can please leave it in the comments, because I would love to be able to create future content specifically for the things that you're going through and the things that you're struggling with. So I can be able to help you. I do read all of my comments. So I would appreciate that if you just drop that below. And next, I'm going to share with you the one key feature to look for in a running shoe if you have insertional Achilles tendinopathy. But before I do that, if you're getting value from this and enjoying these tips, I would greatly appreciate it if you can hit the like button so I can continue creating free content like this for you, so you can maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running. Also, if you're loving this content, then you will certainly love my ultimate free guide to start running healthy without Achilles pain. You will learn all the specific strategies to get back into running without Achilles pain and keep it from coming back again that I've compiled for you, all within this convenient downloadable PDF. Grab your free download ebook by clicking the link I have for you in the description, or just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com. And the one key feature to look for in a running shoe if you have insertional Achilles tendinopathy is, drum roll please, a cushioned heel counter like this shoe has. So if you notice on the inside of this shoe, there's a lot of cushioning in here as compared to this shoe. There's no cushioning here. It's like flat on the inside of this heel counter. So a cushioned heel counter is going to be extremely important, specifically for insertional Achilles tendinopathy, because it's going to really prevent that compression of something hard pushing into the back of your tendon, further irritating it. And these are two ultra shoes, by the way. This is the Escalante, which is a lot of cushioning. This is the Provision that doesn't have any cushioning. So if you are an ultra runner, there are other issues with zero drop shoes that I talk about in a previous training. But if you are this shoe would be better. You want something that has a lot of padding back here or cushioning in the heel counter. That's going to be extremely important for you with insertional Achilles tendinopathy. And you'll also want to avoid, like I mentioned earlier, work boots with a hard back, female casual dress shoes, the men's Oxfords, and not doing these 6 mistakes with Achilles tendinopathy treatment has been honestly a game changer for the athletes who have overcome Achilles pain to get back to running and doing what they love, like Tim. Tim was trying for years to reignite his love for running. In his 20s, distance running was like Tim's life. And like most of us, work, family responsibilities took priority. And then he had some injuries that derailed any sort of running, with an Achilles tear on his left side. And then he was struggling with Achilles tendonitis for years on his right side. As Tim was approaching 40, he decided it was time to invest in himself and prove that he could still do something hard and run a marathon as he was approaching, 40 and 16 years after his last marathon. And I was pumped to get the opportunity to work with Tim because I knew he was ready for a new state of health, and that was long overdue for this new chapter of his running journey. While working together, we focused on strengthening the root causes of why his Achilles would bother him, and most of it related to correcting muscle imbalances from his previous Achilles rupture that was years prior. We built up his mileage and strength training plan in a safe and manageable way that took all of his busy life obligations, like work and family, and other obstacles into consideration. This is what I love most about Tim's journey. Tim describes the most important thing he got out of coaching was how I helped him find his quote unquote why in all of this. As Tim put it, why investing in yourself is the best investment you can make for your family. An accountability partner, coach, and sounding board, Duane was there every step of the way. And I'm happy to share with you that a couple of weeks ago, Tim finished the Philadelphia Marathon, his first marathon in 16 years at age 40, without an ounce of Achilles pain during the 2 months leading up to Philly. As Tim puts it, I'm fit, healthy, inspired, and motivated to continue this next phase of my fitness journey. And that is what I love to hear. People like Tim taking their life to the next level, bringing running back in their life later in life, and being able to fix his Achilles pain and now actually marathon train and not have to worry about the Achilles pain. Like the stuff that Tim and I were working on was like awesome training, like marathon hardcore stuff that we didn't even have any discussions about the Achilles pain because we were able to take care of that early on in the process. Or I think of runners like Amy, who is an amazing mother, runner of 5 kids. She's got some talented runners in her own family. She's a quite accomplished marathoner, Boston qualifier. And after she had many successful years of training and running, was so discouraged and stuck in a year-long injury cycle. She thought her running days were literally over. She was in her late 40s, and she thought she would never again know the feeling of a great long run on an early Sunday morning, or that like happy, tired feeling that we get from like a track workout, or the race day excitement, or crossing a finish line that you like work weeks or months to achieve. And Amy was in our Healthy Runner Facebook community and has been a long-time podcast listener and was excited to see that she could actually inquire about working together in my one-on-one Spark Back coaching program. And during the 16 weeks working with Amy, she went from barely running due to a very stubborn Achilles tendonitis back to slowly building a very strong base. And she thought she was going to have to turn in her sneakers in for like a yoga mat and a bike. But instead, she was back to running 5 days a week again, feeling stronger all over, and crushed a 10-mile race, placing in her age group. And most importantly, her Achilles pain was gone, and she was very happy to be back to doing what she loves. Or I think of people like Jason, who started running for mental health and trained through Achilles pain while he was training on his own for the New York City Marathon. And that was just like brutal. Like, he finished the marathon, but he did it all through pain. And he didn't want to do that again because he was signed up for Berlin. He was running another marathon major, and he had some serious goals to be like shooting for a 20-minute marathon PR. And he was hesitant about getting guidance due to the investment, but he was not only able to complete a hard training block, which included speed work and allowed Jason to hit his Berlin marathon PR goal, but he did it without needing to worry about his Achilles pain. Or I think of runners like Katya, who had Achilles pain on both sides for months. She was frustrated and how it was impacting her running. And she implemented the specific exercises to rehab her injury that I have in the download I mentioned. And she was like excited to not have to stop running while healing the tendon. And she not only got back to pain-free running by the end of our 16 weeks of working together, but PR'd her half marathon by over 9 minutes. And then she went on to train and complete her first marathon in Chicago. And then she's gone on to run many marathons after that. So these are just 4 examples of the hundreds of runners that I've worked with who have implemented the Spark method of overcoming Achilles pain to grow as a runner. My name is Dr. Duane Scotti, and my mission is to save the lives of runners everywhere by allowing them to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner. And if you want to fast track your recovery and get clarity and focus like the runners I just mentioned, that's exactly what we do with our high touch point one-on-one Spark Healthy Runner coaching program, where I'm your running physical therapist and coach all in one. And we work with you or one of the coaches on our team, and I serve as the PT consultant guiding the process. You can learn more about our Spark Healthy Runner signature coaching program and schedule a call now by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com. It's been really great sharing these 6 reasons why your insertional Achilles tendonitis is not getting better with you today, because I know how frustrating this is. And there's not a whole lot of information about insertional Achilles tendinopathy. That's why I wanted to create this for you runners that I see who are always like frustrated with this condition because they're not getting better. So I hope that you found it helpful. And if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next video to help you get strong, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And if this training was like all about the reasons why your insertional Achilles tendonitis is not getting better and what you can do to help heal the tendon. And if you're wondering if your running shoes are making your Achilles injury worse, I shared with you one variable to take a look at today, but you're going to want to click the video I have for you next to learn the 4 key features that you want to look for when shopping for the right running shoes to run pain-free with Achilles tendonitis. So just click this video that I have for you next.